Hey guys, Alex here with Paragon Performance. Today we're going to be showing you how to install the floating center caps on your C8 Corvette. Now this works with all models and trim levels of the Corvette using OEM wheels with OEM center caps. Let's get to it. And what is a floating center cap? Well, here's a quick demo of what that looks like. Keep an eye on that center cap. As you notice, it stays upright. And guess what? We've even tested this to highway speeds, talking 65, 70 miles an hour. For the most part, they still stay upright. Well, let's get into the details of actually installing these because it does require some modifications depending on which caps you have. We're gonna start with this OEM one here. This is going to be the most common one. They're usually black or silver depending on the factory color of your wheel, but this one actually requires the most modifications out of any of them. So we're going to start with that one, do the hardest one first. And step one, remove the engine. No, I'm just kidding. You will probably want to have the wheels off the car. You can do these one at a time. Obviously jack, support your vehicle correctly. But it is a lot easier to not damage the center cap and do it with the wheel off. Once you have the wheel off, you're just gonna take a small dead blow hammer or soft handled hammer. We're gonna reach in from the back side and essentially catch it, just a little whack from the back, it comes right out. Obviously still wanna be somewhat careful with it so we don't damage anything. And just like that, it's out. Now the next step that we're going to need to do is we will need to separate the two halves of this center cap, the beige or black depending on the center cap back half with all the fingers, and then the actual face of the center cap as well. And there are going to be 4 little fingers on the inside here that we will need to release, and using a small pair of needle nose pliers and a plastic pry tool, you will just gently stick the pry tool in the edge and squeeze the fingers and work them until they come apart. And just like that, we've got the two of them separated. Now for the next steps here in the modification, this particular cap style does require you to sand a little bit of this outer ring off. Here's kind of a demo of what you need to take off. It is not a lot, but essentially you are just taking this corner off and beveling it at a 45-degree angle. And once you've got that modified and you're ready to install it on your floating center cap piece, one thing I like to do is I will take my center cap, figure out which side is top, and then we're just gonna take and just use a Sharpie and we're gonna mark the top pin here. Just makes it easy when you're trying to assemble it. And then you're actually going to do the same with the floating center cap. So you're going to hold it so the weight keeps it held down, and then you're going to mark the one that stays at the top. And before we actually snap these together here, there is no little circular piece sticking up in the middle like this other style cap. So that means that we have to put a piece of foam on here that just holds it tight on the floating center cap mechanism. Very simple to do. Just clean it with a little alcohol or glass cleaner, and your little double-sided piece of foam is going to just get stuck right here in the middle. And now we're going to take our 2 marked locations. We're just going to get those lined up so those 2 marked ones are together, and line up the other 3, and then we're just going to kind of give it a squeeze and snap it into place. Just like that, it's installed. All right, now for the specific instructions for pretty much every other cap you have optioned. These ones are typically going to be the ones that are metal finished or have the metal rings on them. First thing that we're going to need to do before we separating the back from the front part of the cap, we will want to orient these so that way that tab, like in the previous step for the other one that we marked as the top, is in the top position. And it is actually easier to do that while the 2 pieces are still connected because you can grab it and just rotate it where you need to be. You can just grab it and turn it in place and pretty much clock it wherever you want it to be. And it doesn't matter which of those little fingers is at the top, you just want one of them at the top. So that way when you pull it apart, you can mark it and your cap stays upright. Now, certain ones of these caps that have the black back, well, guess what? They don't actually turn. So you can't clock them. For the most part, they are somewhat upright, but if you have like the Stingray one here that I have in my hand, that top tab actually puts the Stingray itself, that etched emblem, straight up and down, but the lettering is going to be at an angle. Unfortunately, we can't correct that because of how GM makes these caps. Now, some of these, such as the Jake Skull ones, have the black. We've noticed some variances where they are not particularly straight up and down either. Some are crooked just a little bit, but they're relatively close. So you want to take a look at that prior to tearing all of these apart to make sure that you don't have a silliness where it is sideways. And if for any reason on these other caps, when you go snapping it into the floating center cap mechanism, there is a little bit more play in there than what you think should be there. Granted, there shouldn't be any play at all. That's what that foam is for. You can cut it down a little smaller if you would like. Just put the foam in there so it keeps the tension out on the cap and holds that cap in place for you there. Finish it with the other wheels and you just need to snap it in place. Should be able to just crank it right in there like so. Put your wheel back on your car and you're in business. Now, if for some reason you don't want to go through the process of modifying your center cap to work on there, guess what? We've got an option on the website to pick the center cap you would like. We'll modify it accordingly depending on which one you picked, assemble them together for you so they are upright correctly, ship them to your door. Then all you gotta do is knock the old ones out, put the new ones in, and you're good to go. There you guys have it. Pretty simple install. And whether you're pulling in or parked at your local Cars and Coffee or car show, those center caps will always be upright. And you can flex on everybody else being the coolest guy at the show. As always, like, subscribe, and comment. We'll see you guys next time.